Welcome back to PR After Hours. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, bringing you your weekly cocktail of PR and marketing tips that will help you and your business. Stick around, we'll get started right after these messages. Hello, listeners. It's me, Alex, from PR After Hours. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. And I wanted to talk to you just for a moment about the way I get this show right into your earbuds every week. It's because I use Anchor FM. Now, I've told you previously that I've been podcasting since 2006, back when we used stone knives and bear skins and a couple of Dixie cups and string. Anchor FM has really streamlined this and made it simpler for people who don't know the first thing about setting up a podcast or don't have, time to learn all the pro tools and stuff, because it's all right here. First thing it's important to know is it's free. There are certain tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. That's huge. Distribution is a big pain in the butt, to be honest with you, so it's really great Anchor FM can do that for you, and you're not paying hosting fees. That adds up every month. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place, so download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started, and be sure to join me in the virtual cocktail lounge on PR After Hours. I was driving down the road just today. I had an appointment, had to keep, and on the way to the appointment, I passed by a building on the side of the road. I couldn't tell what it was. I was going by, it caught my eye too quickly, and I couldn't tell what it was, but there was a long line of cars waiting in kind of a drive-through to go somewhere, do something. Anyway, I made a note to check that out on my way back from my appointment, and that's what I did. And my gosh, you are probably thinking that's got to be a line to get one of those incredible chicken sandwiches, or it's got to be a line at Starbucks, which I find inexplicable. But no, it was a line at a car wash. We had decent weather, sunny weather for the first time in literally weeks, and there were people in line. And I was intrigued because they were, I wonder what kind of car wash this was. I mean, must have been incredible, because I pulled over into the parking area and I counted no fewer than 45 cars in line to get a car wash. Even a good drive-through car wash takes a couple of minutes. I mean, if you're car number 45, you're looking at 20-30 minute wait for a car wash. Now, if you're a Lyft driver, an Uber driver, okay, I get it. You want a clean car. It'll up your ratings and probably get you better tips if it's a clean car inside and out, fine. But I doubt this was all Uber and Lyft drivers. And so as I was driving home, I just pondered that, and I thought how I would never do that. How one excellent thing about working for yourself is that you make your own schedule. At least I do. And that means when I want to get a car wash, I can go middle of the day or late morning when most people are at work, or that was the way it used to be back in the day, of course, before COVID, when people actually went to offices and didn't have time during the day to get out. I would just wait for a time. I'd go look at Google and it would tell me the busiest times for a lot of these businesses. They tracking people's cell phones, determine, how many people are there, etc., which I've also been doing during COVID, of course, because I would rather not go to a grocery store if I have to, or Costco or whatever, when it is absolutely packed. It's just a thing. But the other thing is I'm very careful about time, and I'll tell you why. Because typically, since I do work for myself, I only get paid when I work. Now, you're saying, well, so do I. Well, yes and no. If you're on salary somewhere, you're not being paid for every minute. Typically, unless I'm on retainer, I have to bill, and I have to have a clock running, and I have to turn in hours to my clients to get paid. And that's something I use something called Harvest for. I check all my time. I've got it running right now where it's podcast production, which means nobody's paying me. Although, again, you can sponsor the show, but that's for a different day. So I was just thinking about the car wash, and what must those folks' perception of their time be worth? I know what I make per hour, not going to go into it here, and I know what I charge. I have two tiers. I have a blended rate, which is larger when I am basically being hired to do PR, content, social media, the whole Megillah. Whatever I do, they're paying for my time. There's a blended rate. If you want to pay me by the hour, it's not something that you're going to just look at and go, oh, well, that's not so bad. You're going to look at it and go, wow, he gets a lot per hour. But that's because you get a lot out of me. You get almost 30 years experience, and you also get my undivided attention. my focused attention. Now, if there's another rate or a couple of rates for just like you want me just to write content for you or advise you on certain things, there's a lower rate. The point is, I know what I make per hour, so I know what my time is worth roughly. And I tell you this right now, waiting up to 30 minutes for something as frankly useless as a car wash is a very expensive proposition for me when I could be working or trying to find work. So, not knocking you if you're one of those people who wait in line for a car wash. Maybe you just couldn't take it anymore. I mean, I know I feel that way about haircuts. My gosh, I had 2 professional haircuts in 2020 the whole time. I miss having a professional haircut. But the point being, if you're going to sit there I just wonder how it feels to be car number 45 in a line that's slowly moving to get your car washed. So I gave it some thought, and I found this great article, which I'll link to in the show notes, of course, by James Clear, and it's The Value of Time. How much is your time really worth? I thought this was so beneficial because he talks about how to determine what 1 hour of your time is worth. He has a great example. A few weeks before I began writing this article, I was shopping for a small travel bag. After much searching, I found one that I liked, and at just $19, it was very affordable. There was just one problem. The bag was made by a company in the United Kingdom, and it cost $45 to ship it to the United States. He says, I was immediately turned off by the idea of paying $45 to ship a $19 bag, so I searched for retail stores. The company had a physical location in New York City, and I was already planning to visit the city a few weeks later. I looked up the store location and realized it would take me about 1 hour to go out of my way and stop at that store during my trip. That's when I thought of the question that prompted this entire article. Was 1 hour of my time worth $45? He goes on, should I save time and pay $45 to get the bag shipped to me? Or should I save cash and spend 1 hour of my time going to pick it up in person? I had no idea if going to the store or paying extra for shipping was a better use of my time and money. So he goes through this whole thing about the time versus money dilemma. And he asks these very good questions, about these value propositions. Should you buy a nonstop flight and save 2 hours, or get the flight with a stopover and save $90? Back when I used to fly, that was a big concern of mine. I was like, I don't mind a layover at an airport for an hour or two if it saves me a certain amount of money. $90 to me it's a lot of money, frankly. It's definitely worth an hour or two of my time, because if I do a layover for a couple hours or an hour or whatever at an airport in another city, I can still work, I can still get lunch, I can do those things I need to do. Then he says, should you pay your neighborhood teenager $20 to mow your lawn so you have an extra hour free on the weekend? That's another one. He had another thought here. Should you spend the week working with a client that will pay you $2,000 right away, or working on a business idea that could generate 20 grand over the next year? So he's talking about how these choices work, and then he goes into how to calculate what your time is really worth. And it's a lengthy article, but as he says, part 1 is fast and easy and covers everything most people will need, and then there's part 2 is time consuming but valuable, and it's helpful for entrepreneurs and executives. But what I love about the part 1 is he talks about, he says, you're going to need 2 numbers: the amount of time you spend to earn money, the amount of money you earn during that time. So the first step is to measure the total amount of time you invest to earn money. So if you spend 1 hour commuting to work each day and 8 hours at work, then it costs you 9 hours to earn money that day, right? Similarly, he says you should add in any time you spent working on a side hustle or dropping your kids off at daycare. Using these numbers, we're trying to get a complete picture of the total amount of time you invest each year to earn money. He says if you struggle to come up with an estimate for your time, you're not alone. Most people have only a vague sense of where their 24 hours goes each day. Well, I can tell some people you spend at least a half hour waiting in line for a car wash. If you're unsure about how much time you spend working, he recommends using 2,500 hours per year as a starting point. He explains why there. I won't read it all to you. He talks about how he did it, how to track the much money you earn, various tools he uses, basically how to calculate the value of your time. So basically, you divide your total money earned in a year, and you divide that by your total time spent. So he says, so let's say you spent 2,500 hours per year earning money. And he says, if you make $62,455 a year, your time is worth $24.98 an hour. This is the 2014 median income for men in the United States. If you make 100 grand a year, your time is worth about $40 an hour. Okay, that's your time. Okay, and there's more detail here, and I'm going to just leave it you to read this yourself. But let me put it this way. Now, do I charge $24.98 an hour for my clients? No. In fact, I had a client tell me the other day, you're expensive, but you're worth it. I charge a lot more than that, because we're not just paying me for my time. This is the thing here. When somebody hires you as a professional, bear this in mind. They're not hiring you just for your time. They're hiring you for your expertise and your professionalism and your skill and your talent. Okay? You're paying, that saying, you're not paying me X number of dollars an hour for the 10 hours it took me to do your project, you're paying me for the 20 years previously where I learned how to hone my skills to do your project well in 10 hours, that kind of thing, right? So think about it that way. Again, I just want to make this clear. Let's say you make $100,000 a year, you're worth more than $40 an hour, but that's what your time is worth minimum based on a 2,500 hour per year of work, right? So the way I see it is, let's just say you make 100 grand, and a lot of you are listening going, yeah, I wish. And I'm saying the same thing, right? If you make 100,000 a year, your time's worth about $40 an hour, right? Okay. And again, all those numbers assuming you're working 2,500 hours per year, and they'll shift if you work more, a few hours. In fact, I'll just read you one more. If you make $12,316 a year, your time is worth $4.93 an hour. That is the 2014 poverty line for an individual in the U.S. Okay. So the point being, there are certain things that I will no longer do myself because it creates also what I call, or what is called, an opportunity cost. There are certain clients who maybe want to lowball me on a price, or maybe they want me to perform my lowest tier of service, but they want to really corner the market on Alex Greenwood's lowest tier of service, let's say. And I'm going to throw out a number. I'm going to make up a number. Okay, let's just make up a number. This is not exactly what I charge. Let's say they want me 20 hours a week to write content for them, for their website and for proposals, stuff like that. Let's just say that. Not even talking PR, just content writing. And let's say my usual rate is $80 an hour. But they say, look, we're going to give you 20 hours a week, so cut it in half because we're going to make it up in volume. I try to work 40, 50 hours a week tops, right? So if they're saying, look, for half your time roughly, we will pay you half of your advertised rate. Now, that's where you're thinking, okay, the bird in the hand versus, two in the bush. The problem with that is this. That money's guaranteed. There's some money guaranteed. So they're going to pay me $40 an hour, 20 hours a week, and they're going to do it for a month, let's say. So you do the math on that. Fine. That's money that you're going to get. But also, if I'm spending 20 hours a week doing that, that's 20 hours a week I'm not spending doing work that pays higher rates, working for a client who's willing to pay what I'm totally worth, time where I can't be out beating the bushes looking for new work, etc. So I wanted to just step back here from the car wash and just say to you, I hope you'll ask yourself this, both as a professional and as a human being, to take a look at time. Ultimately, the one thing you cannot buy is time. By the time you're done listening to this podcast, there's going to be probably 10 plus minutes of your life you'll never get back. The question is, was it useful or not? The question is, could you have listened to this and multitask, maybe did this while you were exercising and listened to this? Or could you have listened to this while you were waiting in your car to get a car wash? I'm a little preachy on this one, and I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I think people waste a lot of time. They waste a lot of time doing mindless things that I think when you get closer to the end of your life, you're going to wish you hadn't done. But if we're just talking about your professional life rather than just your personal, especially if you're like me and you work for yourself, have you truly evaluated the cost-benefit ratio of all the time you spend? And have you really evaluated, are you getting paid what you're worth? Are you sitting there like you just got out of the car wash, or are you being taken to the cleaners?
Oh, you know what that means? Looks like it's last call here at your virtual lounge for PR news, views, and interviews. Don't forget, you can ask me a question anytime. You can do it through our Twitter account, which is @HoursPR, or even better, you can send me a message vocally. I would love to hear your voice, and I'll answer it on the show. There's a link in the show notes. All you have to do is sign up through Anchor FM. It's free, doesn't take long. And you record your message, I get the message, I will play your audio, just give me your first name and the city you live in, and then I will answer the question to the best of my ability right here on the show. Don't forget to, if you're enjoying this podcast, you can support it and help increase the frequency and value of the show. Just consider being a sponsor for your brand or your agency or just yourself because you're like, I like this show. Or just drop a few coins in the virtual tip jar. Either way, there's links in the show notes. Please check that out. All of that, of course, being in the show notes where you're listening right now or at prafterhours.com. I see that they're turning up the lights. Last call is over, and I've got to clean up this virtual lounge. And until next time, I'm Alex Greenwood, and you've been listening to PR After Hours on Anchor FM.
Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But have you been there, done that, and got the t-shirt? Now's your chance. If you are a big fan of the Virtual Lounge right here at PR After Hours, why don't you tell the world and take our spiffy logo and plaster it across your chest for the whole world to see? Well, for the whole world to see on Zoom or whenever you do finally get out of your house. The PR After Hours tee shows that you're an exclusive member of the Virtual Lounge. It's a cool, comfortable, ring-spun, soft cotton tee. We look for the best possible options we could go for in these t-shirts, and it's in a variety of colors. You can get them in dark heather gray, royal blue, storm, maroon, or good old-fashioned white. These are really comfortable shirts. We offer a premium unisex tee from extra small all the way to 4XL, and a women's slim fit tee, which goes from small to 2XL. They are a hoot, they look cool, and besides, they'll do what we love to do most here at PR After Hours, start a conversation. The PR After Hours t-shirt is available now on Bonfire. The link is in the show notes, and I hope you'll look into getting one. I not only think they look cool and be great conversation starters, but they'll help us keep the Virtual Lounge doors open. Thanks so much.